Recording in progress.
Good evening and welcome. Can you hear me? Good evening and welcome. Sweet, thanks. It is 7 o'clock and I am calling this January 12th meeting of the Somerville School Committee to order. We do a moment of silence and salute to the flag before, right? All right. Moment of silence. Thank you. Superintendent, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, through the chair, President Davis.
Here.
Member Piton. Member Lippens.
Here.
Member Aldridge.
Here.
Member Green.
Here.
Dr. Stellman.
Here.
Mayor Wilson.
Present.
Member Piton.
Here.
And Dr. Ackman.
Here.
So with 9 members present, we have quorum.
Thank you. All right. Item number 2 is a report out of the school committee, student advisory representatives.
Yeah, hi everyone. I know there's some new members here, so I just want to reintroduce myself. Hi, I'm Bhavika Kalia. I'm a junior at Somerville High School, and I'm one of the student committee representatives. Yeah, I think our fellow student representative Aiden will be joining us shortly, so I can begin, but I'm not sure if we can move around the schedule a little bit, just to
Sure. Would you like us to wait? We can do public comment
that would
first.
be great, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bhavika. All right. Then we will come back to the advisory report out, and we'll go to public comment. Do we have? We have one. Okay. Okay. Welcome and thank you to those of you who have signed up for public comment. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to present their material. However, the chair may limit comment to 2 minutes based on the number of individuals that are signed up to speak. Those speaking tonight will be permitted 3 minutes. Speakers should begin their comments by stating their name and address, or in case of a district employee, their role within the district. The chair of the meeting, after a warning, reserves the right to terminate speech which is not constitutionally protected because it constitutes true threats that are likely to provoke a violent reaction and cause a breach of the peace or incitement to imminent lawless conduct. Public comment is not a discussion, debate, or dialogue between the public and the committee. Members of the committee will not reply to the public comment in the course of the meeting, though individual members may follow up and items from public comment may be taken up in future meetings. The school committee will not hear personal complaints about school personnel, nor against any member of the school community in public session. Individuals may address topics on the agenda or items within the school committee's scope of responsibility, such as the district budget, goals, and policies, or the role of the superintendent. The public is encouraged to submit comments in writing for inclusion in the public record. So on Zoom, we have Ryan Williams. Are we set? All right, Ryan, please start.
Good evening, Ryan Williams, 47 Kingston Street, president of the Somerville Council of PTAs. I want to start by saying welcome and congratulations to our new and returning school committee members. Later tonight, you'll be discussing out of school time. This is a topic that I've been asked to speak to and continues to be one that we hear about frequently from our PTAs and our families across Somerville. OST and after school are essential for many families balancing the high cost of childcare and the escalating cost of living here in Somerville. They are a critical pillar of family and student stability. The social engagement and participation offered by these programs are part of addressing the whole child, and that is especially true for those who might have no other options for child care. I do want to start out by thanking Dr. Kimona and his team for making this a priority within SPS. Since the start of this administration, we've seen steady growth and expansion of programming and options for families. This effort is noted, this effort is appreciated, I also want to especially thank Ruth Santos and the SFLC and OST teams for leading outreach to the community and for being friendly and engaging partners on this and many other issues. However, we should all note that we still have more work to do. We have families at East Somerville and undoubtedly elsewhere relying on GoFundMe campaigns to cover after-school fees, families struggling to keep their spots. We often say that GoFundMe is not a healthcare plan. GoFundMe should not be a childcare plan either. I want to emphasize to the new school committee that OST and after school continue to be essential to our SPS families. Barriers to access still remain. We must work together to address these barriers. We must understand where we have gaps in engagement and communication. We must solve logistical barriers around space and staffing, and we must create a system that is easy and straightforward to navigate. I know there's hesitation about the district being in the childcare business, but whether we believe this function belongs within SPS, it does sit within the district right now. And because it sits here, we have an obligation to make it work for all Somerville families. So please consider this context when discussing this later in the meeting. And on behalf of the council and our member PTAs, we're offering ourselves as enduring partners. We appreciate the upcoming listening sessions. And beyond those sessions, we hope they are the start to even more collaborative work on this topic. So let's work to make the current system even better right now, and then let's start that work to build a more sustainable model for the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. With that, we conclude public comment. We're going to move on to the School Committee Student Advisory Committee representatives.
Hi, my name is Aiden for the new school committee members. I'm a senior at Somerville High, and I am also involved in class office and our new student advisory council, which is involved with the state, called the Massachusetts State Student Advisory Council. Do you want to introduce? Oh, you ready? Oh, okay, sorry. So since we don't have much new since we're coming back from the break, I wanted to take this opportunity to bring up something that I thought is an important program that maybe we should start to think about, especially as we are getting into the midst of thinking about the class of 2030. So I've been looking at other public school systems, and I've seen a lot of them have like a centralized 8 to 9 transition program, and I just wanted to give a brief like layout, quick, it's not very fleshed out, but a template of what something like that could look like at Somerville High and what the benefits of having something like this may be. So first, there would be stuff that starts in the middle or at the middle school level. We already have many of these supports. We have course selection that starts in middle schools right around this time. School staff, like counselors, help select or help inform 8th graders about what their freshman opportunities are. But I was thinking we could also supplement this with pre-orientation events that bridge middle schools, and maybe some programming where high school volunteers can come in and share like their own experiences, share what they think could help freshmen get a better start at the school. Bhavika noted that high school students could also share about extracurricular opportunities because this year, as we've noted, it's really ramping up and people are starting to get a lot more interested in what clubs, what sports we have to offer. So stuff like that, where in the past students have struggled to find or feel engaged with. The second part would feature freshmen starting school orientation activities before classes start. So as someone who's looking at colleges, I was thinking of how typically freshmen at colleges have a week before classes start where they get to do orientation activities, get to meet other students, form those bonds. But obviously we don't have the kind of time that college freshmen do. So instead of doing a week before classes where most people are still on break, I was thinking that maybe we could try to find a way to turn the 2 or 3 days that we have for that weird half week where everyone's coming back into a longer freshman orientation for for creating that early community, because as we already have a freshman orientation assembly on the first day, it's not really too structured. It's more of a slideshow presentation, and then you go to your classes, and you're just dropped in, which it's not a bad way to do it, but I think it could be done better. And then the final part would be freshman advising through the first semester. We already have this year implemented a peer mentor pilot program, which Bhavika is also a part of. She can give you more information about that.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Aiden. Yeah, just so continuing on with that 8th grade to 9th grade transition, this year, as Aiden mentioned, we had piloted this peer mentor program where older students, specifically 11th or juniors and seniors, acted as peer mentors for the freshmen, and educators at Somerville High School, including Beatrice Thomas and Cynthia Massillon, spearheaded this initiative. And we had peer mentors leading restorative justice circles with the 9th graders during a block in their schedule. But we did notice that there were some difficulties with getting involvement and engagement from the students. And although we are really trying to ease in that transition, a lot of students are just not feeling as engaged or not wanting to be as involved. So kind of like this main question that I want to bring up is, or that we've also been thinking about, is that how can we encourage students to understand and appreciate the importance of building community and our school, our Somerville High School community? And I think a big part of that is missing during that first week of school, or just that early transition to school, as a lot of students just don't feel like they're involved right away. And just having, like what Aiden was mentioning, a more of a transition like during that first, like those initial weeks at school, really ensures that the freshmen and the rising students actually feel like they're a part of the community and they have a voice, and they truly feel included. And another thing is that, of course, we have like course selection with 8th graders, we have visits, the Zoom presentations, there's different summer activities and a brief summer program, and there's obviously the word of mouth that comes from other students and teachers. However, implementing a program to support freshmen would really set up these students for success in their upperclassmen years, and of course for life on their own after. And something I've noticed as a junior is that a lot of my peers feel unprepared for post-secondary life, and a lot of students have been struggling just because they haven't had that opportunity to really become involved during their freshman and sophomore years. So, for example, like a lot of students are really trying to find ways to get involved and just get community service hours or like internships and community projects and things like that, but there's no one really there to mentor them, and I really don't want that for the rising freshmen. So I feel like amplifying and really supporting that transition would support that. And of course, as we know, with the COVID pandemic, there's definitely been this aspect of learning loss, and even though we are coming out of that and rebuilding that, it's really important to have stronger connections for students, which we might not have deemed necessary before. But I can speak from my own experience as like a junior during like post-COVID and like going through that. I think it is very important to provide students with the support that they need that may not have been as a parent before. Yeah.
And I just want to take a second to note how this really aligns with like what the Somerville High School Improvement Plan is, where with wellness and joy, it plainly states to enhance student community building opportunities. This would very plainly do that. I also feel that it would help with family engagement, because I have heard from some families, it varies, but that some people don't feel like there's enough information surrounding the 8 to 9 transition, and that they're going into it blind, like especially with athletics, they have to track down the coaches, and there's not enough messaging or clear, comprehensive structure around it for some people who may be new to the system, or maybe it's their first kid going into high school. And I also feel that it would help with academic excellence, because just being happier in the environment of school will help students do better, because it's hard to do well in an environment where you're miserable. Yeah.
Thank you both. Let's close there. Do any of my colleagues have questions? Member Selman and then Member Batone.
Thank you for giving us this pretty excellent set of recommendations and your empirical data just from your lived experiences, and for being part of the student council, and for really being very compassionate and thinking about how to operationalize the visions and the promises that we make is really impressive and pretty awesome. So I just want to thank you for that. And I just wanted to back up what the data that you're talking about, your lived experiences, what you're seeing, and the ideas that you have are backed up by a lot of significant research. And you point to something really important, which is that transition from middle to high school, but especially when it's not done well, those losses just into 9th grade have a really significant impact on students through the rest of their career. So if we are going to do some kind of intervention, that is, in my opinion, the best place. And I love the ideas that you have, particularly around creating connections and relationships between the upper level students and the lower grades. And I think that's really inspiring, and excited to hear more and be of service.
Thank you, Chair, through you. I second everything Dr. Stellman just said. This is a really lovely and exciting idea. I would love to, the superintendent and the team would love to see how this could be structured and implemented, and what resources would be needed if we were to go ahead and consider it. So I would love to see that follow-up, and really appreciate you bringing this forward.
Thank you. Dr. Boston Davis, do you want
Do you want to describe some of the transition? Do you mind?
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you to our students. Powerful, as always. Thank you. Some of the work that you named is happening. So we have, for example, some of the educators that they named are, well, one of them is a scholarship recipient for the PSI program. So this is, I'm not going to say the name of the scholarship correctly, but essentially we as a district sponsor educators each year to pursue their leadership licensure, and one of our main partners has been PSI, and Perone Sizer Institute, I believe is what it's called. I had to just think about it for a second. So one of Beatrice Thomas, who is also a Somerville High alum, is one of the educators that they named, and this is one of her problems of practice that she's working on as a project. So I'm so glad that she's partnering with students, partnering with Cynthia Massillon, who also is has extensive training in restorative justice. And I also sat in on a presentation from Ms. Thomas and Ms. Massillon on this, so I'm really, really excited. They're very passionate about it, and I think they'll take some of these recommendations. In addition, last year, the district instructional leadership team, which is comprised of educators and administrators across the district, look at data together, and kind of simply stated, this is the arc of the year, but we look at a lot of data together, identify some district-wide problems of practice, and form working groups to move those problems of practice forward. One of the 4 working groups last year was on this very thing, thinking about our middle school or middle grades transition to high school. So they did some initial research and made some recommendations, the district instructional leadership team presented to all admin in June, and now as a district, we are leading a middle grades transition working group, so a formal working group taking some of these recommendations, taking the recommendations from the district instructional leadership team that's formed by administrators and educators, and that's led by Amara Inasike, our chief of staff. So there are some structural things in place that we agree that this is an area that we need to strengthen. Really appreciate the lived experiences and you amplifying it. It's very, very helpful, and if you have not already, I'm sure you will be tapped for some support with that. And so that's currently how we've structured it. So I'm really excited to move some of that work forward.
Thank you, Superintendent.
I just wanted to first thank Babika and Aiden for the work. And I think part of the gap is also how do we communicate these processes that are taking place. Part of the strategic plan is to create a profile of a learner at the middle school grade or the middle school grade experience. And we, again, that's something that is going to take time. I know there's a profile of the learner at the high school. How much is that center in the daily experience of students is something that we probably can do better. But I do think that, and there are significant efforts at the high school to actually establish that transition. I love the idea of having high school students come down to the middle school. We have had those discussions with the high school, but it hasn't really crystallized on specific actions. I just wanted to, again, thank you for that, and also just to, this is a point of reflection for me as to how do we also advertise the things that actually are trying to address the things that you're sharing, but haven't actually surfaced to the level of awareness to families and to students. But thank you for bringing that up.
We're going to go Member Green, Member Patone, Mayor Wilson.
So first I want to echo all the thanks and all the support, particularly hoping that if this is something that requires resources, we can discuss it as part of the budget process, because I think this is absolutely something we need to be doing. But I also want to make sure that you and the larger community knew that, first of all, we always appreciate hearing ideas from students, and that you are always welcome to do that. That is part of your role when you sit at these meetings, is to bring us problems, bring us potential solutions, bring us things you think we need to be discussing more. And so I hope that this is the first of many proposals we hear from you and the rest of the council.
Thank you, Member Patone.
Thank you, through the chair. First, thank you. I love that you are feeling more and more comfortable in this space of school committee and bringing ideas forward. And it's really exciting, so I just want to compliment you and urge you to continue it. My question is more directly to the administration. One thing I've been thinking about is, we have different spaces of student leadership. We have the School Improvement Council, we have the School Committee Advisory Group, we have student officers, we have student council, which I think is associated with the officers. I don't completely understand all the aspects of leadership that exist, but I'm curious about how, as we move forward, we want to systematize our connections through the administration to these groups. And I know that you all are very sensitive to not wanting to overburden them, but at the same time, how do we loop them in as we're doing different types of working groups? So maybe this is something that administration can think about more formally and bring back to the school committee, because the bottom line is we want voice, we want engagement from students, but we also don't want to constantly pulling in the same people all the time. And I'm very sensitive to that because I know you guys have a lot going on. So just that'd be something really exciting for me to hear about.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Through you, thank you so much for coming and talking about it. It's a really important conversation. I see it as a key equity piece. As the parent of a new freshman at the high school who just went through this process, our oldest, first time at the high school, it's not lost on me the degree to which we were able to just through our networks and connections connect my daughter with so many resources for advice on how to navigate it, and whereas another family without those connections is just going through this and trying to figure it out on their own. And so I think it's addressing this is a key way that we can just address equity in the city. So I think it's a really important conversation. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to add in one of the things, we had a meeting with the Student Advisory Committee. They were brilliant. They, as my colleagues had mentioned, was it January 7th we had that? I'm going to say it was January 7th. I hope that's correct. I want to thank you, thank your peers. They come with challenges as well as proposed solutions, which is just really wonderful for us as a body. And in any situation, it is deeply appreciated. I see you doing this with this proposal, and so I'm thankful. I do want to task, because you're the Student Advisory Committee representatives, and as Member Patone mentioned, we hear from you, we hear from other high school students, but we as a district, we as a body serve pre-K through 12 students. So I loved hearing how you are thinking about the middle grades, but however you can be bringing in voices of students across all schools throughout the city in the younger grades, we look forward to hearing it. You're more innovative than I probably will ever be, so I'm confident in your ability to do it. But I love that you are already doing it, but I task you with continuing to think about all the students across the city. Anything else? Thank you. That was a great presentation, very thoughtful. We really appreciate it. Shouldn't shut my mic off. Okay, we are moving on to approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes from the school committee meetings from November 17th, December 1st, and December 15th, 2025.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Member Bitone, seconded by Member Green. I want to note for new members and for the public that this is our body voting to say, yes, these are the minutes. It doesn't mean that necessarily everyone was present previously and that everyone agrees that that was what was said. It's just that these were the minutes that were presented to us and there's nothing glaringly incorrect about it. Okay, with that, I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Minutes are approved. And we are moving on to the report of the superintendent, Dr. Carmona.
Great. Good evening, Dr. Ackman and members of the committee. I am thrilled to be back here with you to begin 2026 with our 3 new school committee members, as well as Council President Lance Davis, and of course, our new mayor, Mayor Wilson. Welcome to you all. So this Wednesday marks the halfway point of the school calendar. And as we begin this calendar year, I want to pause and reflect on the progress we have made together and to share my excitement for what's ahead. Over the past year, we have seen meaningful growth across our district. Through the hard work of our staff, the resilience of our students, and the strength of our partnerships with families, while there is a lot more to do, I am energized by the momentum we have built through the strategic planning, and I am grateful for the committee's continued leadership as we look ahead to another year of learning and opportunity. So this includes our ongoing collaborative efforts with our families and community members. Over the next few weeks and months, the district will be hosting a number of workshops and collaborative sessions to bring families and staff together for feedback and conversation. These are opportunities for us to listen, learn from one another, and continue to build strong relationships across our school community. I encourage you to check out the new happenings page on our website for upcoming sessions on topics such as academic curriculum, the new school building project, multilingualism, and much more. We truly value working alongside parents and community partners as true collaborators in this work. Your input helps guide our decisions and supports our students so every learner can succeed. So many of these upcoming discussions are strongly supported by the efforts of the SFLC, which brings us to our first presentation this evening. Our community-facing initiatives are led by the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative, what we always call the SFLC. Their work on behalf of students and their families has been instrumental. We have reduced barriers, expanding access to resources, creating meaningful pathways for families to engage with our schools and with one another. By intentionally reaching those who have historically been underserved, we strengthen trust, belonging, and equity across our district. Throughout the year, the team has continuous work to expand access to food markets at 3 schools and to support families impacted by immigration-related activity. The importance of the SFLC role was especially evident during last year's period of heightened food insecurity, which disproportionately affected families who rely on SNAP benefits to meet basic needs. With that, I'm going to welcome our Director of SFLC, Ruth Santos. She is here with us tonight, and she's going to highlight these efforts to help ensure that every family feels welcome, supported, and fully part of our shared community. Welcome back, Ms. Santos.
Thank you, Dr. Carmona. And I'd also like to extend a warm welcome, especially to the newest members of school committee and to Mayor Wilson as well. My name is Ruth Santos, and I have the immense privilege of being the director of an incredible team of people known as the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative, the SFLC. Most of you know SFLC. Many of you have had the joy of being part, I think, of some of our early childhood programs. You've registered your own children for school, you've helped other people register for school, and you've come across much of the deep work of our staff in the public schools. Next slide, please. So this slide just gives an overview of the work that we do in more or less chronological order. You'll be hearing separately from 2 of our offices later on in the year, so the Office of Basic Needs and Housing Support Services and the Enrollment Office will be presenting separately. We'll give a little light overview of them tonight and have a look as well at some of the other pieces of our pipeline. Next slide. So, the Enrollment Office. Simone Braga is our newish director of the Enrollment Office, and she's a great example of the workforce pipeline that we strive to create. She was originally a home visitor. She has been an enrollment specialist herself. She was the registrar at Somerville High School, and she's returned to us in the role of Enrollment Director. We're thrilled to have her. She and her team are deep in the throes of pre-K and K registration. We've been open a little over a week right now, and I believe we're at 95 pre-K registrations and 195 K registrations, which is about 50% of capacity in 6 days. So you can see the level that they're working at. This week we opened in-person support for registrations at the tab. We are booked out throughout the week, and the Enrollment Office will also be going out to the community and helping families that need additional support at the East and at the Capuano as well. So they have 2 full days helping people on the other side of the city. The quote on the slide is indicative of how much a warm smile and a helping hand can change a person's experience. We always have great feedback anytime we go out in the community to help people understand a little bit more the process. Next slide, please. So pictured here are Regina Bertholdo and Jen Ochoa, who between them run our Basic Needs and Housing Support Services office. It's an incredibly innovative office helping with stability for families throughout the district. We know that stability is fundamental to family success, and their work is incredible in terms of how deep it runs and the outcomes for students. The slide gives an overview of their work and their community collaborations, and I'm sure you can imagine the magnitude of the additional challenges that they've had to face this year in terms of supporting families with basic needs, housing, and shelter. You can look forward to diving a bit deeper into their work a little bit later on in the year. They'll have some statistics and some stories to share with you about how wonderful their work has been this year. The next slide. So we turn our attention to the rest of the SFLC work, which begins very collaboratively and intentionally in early childhood. We believe in partnering with families before their children start in the Somerville public schools as far as possible. We can then provide warm handoffs, and we're a resource for families who are trying to learn about what all of this means as they take the next big step with their families. And the next slide. All of the work that I'm going to talk about for the next 2 slides is funded by the Coordinated Family and Community Engagement Grant for a total of $350,000. It's been flat funded now for 10 years. We've had no increase in that. And the work that Fernanda Villar, the director, does and her team is truly nothing short of a miracle. They keep all of the programs in place and still somehow manage to do more. We offer a huge variety of free programming, multilingual playgroups across the city, parent support groups, and some fantastic workshops. Next week, we have a Tufts professor offering a really interesting workshop around bilingualism and language acquisition in early childhood, and we'll offer that in English with interpretation, but we also offer the program in Spanish. We are grateful to all of our community partners for the support that they provide, especially for our playgroup spaces, and we're always on the lookout for a permanent space for playgroups like we used to have. So any ideas are welcome. The next slide, please. Our home visiting program, Parent Child Plus, is an early literacy home visiting program, and it's a model of its kind in the state. One thing we're really proud of is that all of the home visitors that we have now went through the programs themselves. They graduated, and they're now the ones supporting families in the same way that they received support. Another example of the pipeline of the work that we do. This year we received a very small grant from BU, and it's designed to follow a few of the Parent Child Plus families into their first year at SPS. It'll be a home visiting for transitional support, and this will be conducted jointly by Parent Child Plus home visitors and either the child's teacher or a liaison at the school. Home visitings are something I'm very passionate about. It's very complicated, but it's something that we definitely would like to look into more moving forward. Next slide, please, Erica. That home visiting piece, I think, is part of the transitions piece that the student representative spoke so eloquently about from 8th to 9th grade, which is always, all of these transitions are very much on our minds. Transition into public schools has to be one of the biggest and most terrifying steps that people have to make. So we've been working hard on creating a very intentional transition pipeline of work. We have a concrete calendar of events and workshops, and we have some purposeful design materials like the social stories about the individual schools that we share out with families. We do a lot of warm handoff and hand-holding. We introduce families to liaisons who offer popsicle parties. We make sure that they've got their heads around walking around the outside of the school, even if they hadn't had a chance to go inside of the school. And we try to just make that huge step a little bit more palatable for everybody. And the next step. So the next step after the enrollment office and the registration and that lovely warm welcome that they offer is the liaisons. They're the important people for families to know in the schools. It's a multilingual team, and it provides a huge variety of support services on top of engaging families, helping them navigate unfamiliar and very complex systems and connecting them to schools. The liaisons run 3 monthly free food markets and the Carrot Card program to help with food. These programs have been relaunched thanks to generous funding from the city as well as from a private donor. We're very, very grateful for that. Again, this has been an incredibly challenging year for many of our families, and liaisons have shown such commitment and adaptability in how they've offered support. And a really good example of this, as Dr. Carmona mentioned, was that when the PTAs stepped in with this outpouring of support in the face of a SNAP shutdown, the liaisons developed a system literally overnight to get the hands on the cards into the hands of the families that needed them. They're so used to this work. They put in the extra hours. They developed the systems that needed to happen, and they were there when they were needed. Our prime goal as a team is family engagement linked to learning. The pie chart that you're looking at there in previous years has had a lot more variety of color on it, and we would love to get back to that. But right now, we are really in supporting families with resources that they need mode, and trying hard also to grow those other pieces while we do the work. Next slide, please. So the multilingual services team is the often invisible backbone support that allows for inclusive and equitable engagement with all families. They offer translation, which is written, for a huge variety of documents from handbooks to homeschool communication, flyers, policy, you name it, they're there doing it. They also offer interpretation for tons of meetings and events, both simultaneous and consecutive interpretation. And over the course of the year, they get to know families really well. Families really trust our team, and coordinator Michaela Yang often hears how the stability of seeing the same person interpreting at a follow-up meeting can change outcomes for very, very difficult and complex conversations that families are having at any given time. Last year, this whole team completed the highest level of training for interpretation in educational settings, and through a grant, they've been able to train other people in the district and grow our pool of local interpreters who can get to know families. They're currently offering a PD for bilingual paraprofessionals as well to help ensure the integrity of interpretation in the schools at all times. And the next slide. We're incredibly lucky to have a high number of very competent, very qualified volunteers in our district willing to support our work. Just between September and December, we had 119 weekly volunteers, many of those in the high school, and many more helping with specific events such as the food markets and other school-based events. Jen Capuano offers monthly volunteer orientations, and she's supported by a point person at each school who has an hour or two to help match and make requests. And one piece of the work that we're looking into is how to formalize a tutoring program using those volunteers moving forward. We have great people. It would be great if we could create a framework to slot people into on a yearly basis. Next slide, Erica. So this page just shows some of the programs and events offered by and supported by SFLC over the course of the year, as well as some of the support that we offer in terms of how families access services. Huge credit here to Tina Liu, who is our Data Resources and Communications Coordinator, and she's played a huge role, for example, in setting up Arbiter as a single point of entry platform for after-school and summer clubs, and hopefully other after-school programs moving forward. It's a very big undertaking, and she's done amazing work, as well as creating some flyers and kind of instructional pieces on how to navigate various parts of the school system, which is a complex thing to do and put into simple language. Our staff are also integral into many cross-sector coalitions and advisories across the district and across the city and regionally. Knowing what's going on and working collaboratively to improve things is core to our work and to creating this robust network of engagement. The last slide. And this final slide highlights just a few of the ways in which our work aligns with the goals of the strategic plan. And in reality, all of our work is driven by these goals, which along with data gathering are central to our planning throughout the year. And finally, I think I'd just like to acknowledge on a personal level that just as many of the families we work with have had an unbearably hard year in many ways, SFLC's amazing staff, many of whom are facing similar challenges themselves, have risen up, and they've shown immense bravery, dignity, and deep dedication to Somerville families. And I'm really proud to have just shared a very tiny glimpse of all the amazing work that they do. And please, if you see them around, thank them or give them a hug. We're huggers. It'll all work out. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Member Green, and then Member Lippens.
Thank you, through you. You know, I can never, ever say enough because it's SFLC and a community that really likes talking about reaching out to underrepresented communities and marginalized populations. No one in the city does it better than SFLC, full stop. And so I'm always mostly curious to know what can we do to help you do your job better, because you really are at the pointy end of all these things. And I especially this year want to echo your comments about their bravery. these are the same people who were the first people back in the office and back in the job during the pandemic, even as they all have their own family things, their own things as family. And the year has been tough. They have, again, been the front line on pretty much everything. So how can we, so this year I'm going to ask both, how can we help the organization? And in particular, how can we help this staff?
Through you, one of the things on my mind is to continue to advocate for the basic needs resources that we've received this year. The food support offers way more than just food support. It offers a conversation with families, and it offers a way to dig a little bit deeper and see what other things might be needed. It offers us a chance to refer them to the Office of Basic Needs and Housing Support Services if that's what on families' minds. It's an opening door. So the support in terms of the carrot card, we had some MBTA support, which was absolutely fantastic for families last year. Those monthly gift cards were amazing. It was ARPA funded, and we know those things are hard, but those things really sort of open the door to help our work go more smoothly. An additional thing would be, and I think Fernanda would agree with me, space for playgroups.
Do you allow me to briefly dig deeper on the basic food support issue? I know that the city of Somerville were represented when the Boston Foundation, the city of Boston, announced their food security partnership. I know that there was some announcements of funding citywide at the end of last year, but I'd love to know a little bit more about, to the extent that the city of Somerville is part of that partnership, has SFLC and SPS been part of that partnership, and what does that look like, and has there been resources, and if not, we can have that conversation offline about how we can possibly get some.
Mm-hmm. The SFLC works very closely with the, I'm going to get the word wrong, the Office of Healthy Living and Food from the city of Somerville. We always have done. We partner with the Work for Food for Free, and they advocated very strongly on our behalf for the food funding that we have received for this year. We weren't part of the conversation. We were very glad to receive the money.
Thank you. Member Lippens?
Thank you, through you. I just want to commend the SFLC for your clearly tireless work and during this critical window of a child's life, like 1,800 days, I believe. I have 3 kids, and all of them took advantage. With all of them, I took advantage of the playgroups and all the resources, and I know that that's only expanded. And I am really interested in learning more about how family engagement really ties to learning, because early childhood, investing in early childhood education is investing in our future. So I want to echo Mr. Green, Member Green's comments about just supporting this work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Member Baton?
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you so much for the presentation. It's always exciting to hear how people are connecting, and I always appreciate how you have pictures of different staff and really give the school committee and the community the opportunity to really see the players and the work that's being done. My question is actually for the administration. I very much appreciate Ms. Santos's concern about playgroup space, and I don't know what the mechanism is for that to be considered. Where does it go? So, consideration through the school spaces, consideration for city spaces, and obviously those needs have to be considered with all the other priorities that the schools and the city has. And whether or not it should be brought up at the building, the school building issue, or whether administration wants to sort of figure out the pathways internal before it gets escalated at that level. So it's almost like I'm asking, how do we explore this? It's great to hear that we need it. Obviously school committee can't go, whoop, here's, X dollars and let's do it. There's lots of needs in the city and there's lots of needs in the district, and I'd love to figure out how do we formally put this request forward and how it can be prioritized with other needs in the city and the schools.
Superintendent?
So we know that once the Commons and the building at the Edgerly was offline, it created some space challenges. Not only that, but the logistics access for families who needed the most was also impacted. So we know that the solution also lives not only with the district, but in collaboration with the city. So I think that these are things that we definitely need to explore together. But it is one thing that is a clear challenge. Space is a clear challenge to all the district. But I know that we have a willing partner in this conversation, and I am really looking forward to those conversations. But we'll continue that in a more formalized way.
Member Breton, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, please. Through the chair, I'm curious, when is an appropriate timeline to have follow-up, and whether or not it comes to this body or comes to the school building maintenance body. Obviously, this is something you can think about and come back to us with, but I really would like to hear, like, okay, we're going to have this conversation in April or May or whatever is appropriate, because I really want to keep my eyes on this, and I really want to get the updates. So that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Eldridge. And then Stellman, then Beaton.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm not sure who the best person to ask this question is, whether it's you, Ms. Santos, or maybe Dr. Carmona, but I'm trying to understand a little bit more. On slide 7 and slide 11, there was note of the intensive literacy opportunities for families in Somerville. I'm trying to better understand how a family qualifies and how they inquire about a program like that. And I'm also interested in hearing a little bit more about the volunteers that are supporting math and literacy tutoring, and again, how families and students can inquire and become involved in that, and what you need to help support that program and thus expanding, I think is what you were mentioning earlier. Thank you.
Through the chair, thank you so much for those questions. I'll begin with the early home visiting literacy program. Fernanda Villar is with me this evening. She runs that program. It is all done through the intense roots that her team has in the community. Nearly everybody has English as their second language, and most of the families are low literacy themselves. And the goal of the home visitor is to go in and partner with the families on teaching books without words, teaching them that literacy isn't all about having English and being able to read fluently. Literacy is all around us, all day, every day. And they go in twice a week for 30 weeks and do that work. So we don't actively and openly recruit, but we're at lots and lots of community events. And we talk to families, and her home visitors gauge which families may be a good fit for the program, and then they go out and visit with the families and do some more intake work around that. Does that sound about right? Yeah. And then the second question was around the math and literacy. Yeah. So we currently the requests are made. We have a volunteer coordinator in each school. The requests are made either through the volunteer coordinator or through a form that we have, where any educator can go on and make a request to the volunteer, to Jen Capuano, and she will match with the existing volunteers and send somebody out. Which works very, very well. She has a whole database full of volunteers who check their skill set, and she's able to say, this person said that they could do math and they can also speak Portuguese. Would this be a good fit for the classroom? What we don't have in terms of looking at, we've talked about this a lot with Dr. Carmona, about trying to do some more sort of formal work with putting volunteers in the classrooms, and that would require a point person and a sort of a standardization of the program and the curriculum. And that's something that we've talked about and we're hoping to move forward on this year.
Dr. Stellman?
Thank you, Ms. Santos. I just want to have a short question, but I want to just preface it by saying that the SFLC, I'm sure everyone here knows that it's phenomenal, but it's not just phenomenal in the sense that it serves our families in Somerville extremely well. It's actually it's a blueprint for communities across the country. And if we haven't already figured out how to start putting a spotlight, we should do that. Not just because it's fun to show off how awesome our district is, but because other places need this. They have the people, but not, not the secret sauce that you have, and it's not secret, right? And we could do training, and et cetera. So that was just my statement. And then I wanted to just ask a question about, and I don't need any specific numbers, but just understanding the scale of the Carrot Card program, approximately how many families, and what is sort of the typical amount that folks are getting, so we could just get a sense of what that looks like.
I can get the exact numbers to you. We were able to up the monthly amount this month, and I'll be happy to send those across to you offline.
Great.
We prefer not to.
That is very fair. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Superintendent Carmona.
Yeah, just I wanted to give you a little bit of a visual on to kind of create a better impression of what we're describing. The food markets is an experience that I would welcome everyone to join me on those. We serve sometimes 100, 200, 300 families. And the logistics of, it's not just passion for families, but it's also, there is a system in place. So there's like everyone gets funneled through a specific space. There is, when they are actually lining up, there's also surveys. There's so much that is intentional about supporting families in this process. But what I wanted to highlight is that two things we have realized during the food challenges that we had was that the needs are greater, and also the support is even bigger than we realized. And so I just wanted to leave you with that as we realize how many families were exposed to the gaps in the financial support from the federal government, more families needed support, and our system was basically primed to do that kind of support. Obviously, that had an impact on the human toll as well, but I just wanted to highlight the fact that in these real instances, the people that do the work, SFLC, do it as if that's part of their call. So just wanted to give you that little bit of a imagery.
Thank you. Member Bitton?
Thank you, Chair. Through you. Ms. Santos, thank you so much for the work you and all the other superstars at the SFLC do every day. I don't know anyone who's involved in any way at our schools who is not deeply impressed by the work everyone there does, and I could go on for an hour about probably each page of your presentation, so I won't. I wanted to follow up on Member Pitton's dialogue around the space for the play groups, because I do see this as an important piece for follow-up, and I'm glad you highlighted it. And I just, for the administration, I would encourage, so in the same way that Mayor Wilson has emphasized that our beautiful new high school should be a space that gets more use, I think one thing that we need to do is think creatively about our space considerations. We have needs for teen center spaces. And how can we think about complementary uses for, groups that might house very young children, for play groups at certain times of the day, and then spaces for teens in other times in the day. I don't have any specific ideas, but I just wanted to throw that out, that in our very dense and space-constrained city, this is something we're going to need to get very creative about. So thank you.
Thank you. Trying to use my teacher, time to make sure no one has additional thoughts. Okay. Director Santos, thank you. Thank you to the members of SFLC who showed up, and thank you for your amazing work. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Now to the second topic of discussion for today, which is around out-of-school time programming. And I know that, as we heard from Mr. Williams earlier on, this is one of those things that everyone has a wish list, everyone has some desire, everyone has some intent to make sure that we strengthen the programs that we offer for families. We know that given the structure of our families, everyone needs support after school. So I cannot share with you how much this team has done and has worked together in collaboration with the city. Actually, Summer Promise is here, SFLC, and Out of School Time. Last year started working together just to address issues of family access, issues of communication, and yet we still are often finding ways to provide more space despite the fact that we continue to grow. As you know, we have had some financial challenges that we share with you. We came to this body for feedback, and that allow us to actually build some sustainability, but we know that it has had some other unintended consequences that we are actually addressing at this point. But with that, I just wanted to give the floor to our director of Out of School Time, Rosanna Parabello, so she can share information about the program.
Good evening and welcome new members. My name is Rosanna Parabello and I am the Director of OST, Out of School Time Programming. It has been a very exciting year for OST and we feel privileged to share this update with you all. You will hear from our OST team in the many hats we wear to carry out a cohesive and multifaceted network of programming to our students and families. Next slide. Our mission is to support the academic, social, and emotional development of our students through equitable access to high-quality programming. We are always striving to increase access, capacity, and academic opportunities and carry out the goals of the district's strategic plan of out-of-school time. Next slide. This evening, we will share updates regarding our summer programs, full-time care programs, partner contracted programs, OST enrichment clubs, and our OST steering committee. Next slide. Some particular highlights we would like to share with you include increased capacity in our full-time programs, the implementation of the arbiter registration system, increased opportunities for our youth, more consistent options across schools, coordination of space for our community organizations to offer programming opportunities as well, and making improvements around consistent communication so we ensure equitable access. Now I'd like to introduce James Mandart, this summer's director, to give a brief update of our fabulous summer programming.
Thank you, everybody. Next slide, please. So we had a wonderful summer. If you go back just one more slide to the pictures. We had an awesome summer in 2025. Now we're in 2026, so we'll give you a brief snapshot of just a few of the things that happened. So next slide, please. You can see here, in terms of enrollment, we had about 1,403 students total, with 17 programs spanning just about all the buildings in the district. 14 of those programs were internal and 3 of them were external. And we have, on the right of the presentation here, just 3 of our many programs that I wanted to briefly highlight for you. The elementary spell program that happened at the Argenziano School. They provided students with some really great theme-based language learning experiences. They even had some outside vendors come in, do some great presentations for the students. They even got to meet some really exotic animals, which is a really cool experience for them. The calculus project, they developed students' understanding and appreciation of mathematics through instruction, community building, field trips, and enrichment clubs, and even having some of the high school students come down and help some of the younger students to talk about math and make it cool, which is great. And lastly, our middle school robotics program explored engineering, digital design, fabrication, coding, and robotics with high school students from the SHS team, and they also pushed in 2 other programs which we hope to continue with this next summer coming up. So if you can go to the next slide, please. And lastly, just a few more snapshots of highlights and some areas for improvement. Our highlights, as we heard earlier from SFLC, Arbiter Sports. It was our first year for registering all of our programs through that. It was a great experience for families as well. We increased attendance across most of our programs, and we improved our communication between those programs, especially in our shared spaces throughout all the buildings. For some areas of improvement, just a couple more slides, or a couple more points there, sorry. We like to increase our high school student participation in terms of like how they can help different program directors and giving them sort of work hours. So if they're not necessarily signing up for programs, we want to give them opportunities to help other students and get some experience working. We want to improve access as well for building with our non-SPS programs and even specific teachers who may be working in a certain building who don't work there during the school year. We want to make sure that everybody has access to the buildings that they're working in for that summer. And lastly, we want to start that recruitment process a little bit earlier to increase more of our numbers for registration. So thank you. We'll give this back to Rosanna.
Partner programs. We are fortunate enough to offer free programming to students through contracted partners. These programs are funded through the OST budget, and we collaborate with different organizations. The programs prioritize academic improvement, cultural competence, and student-centered practice, and meeting the needs of diverse learners, social-emotional learning, and college and career readiness. This is directly related to our strategic plan for out-of-school time. Next slide. Embedded in our Somerville Public Schools are partner programs. They fall under the OST department, which include Unroot, Boston Debate League, Becoming a Man and Working on Womanhood, Soccer Without Borders. We are also able to partner with such programs such as Apollo to expand seats for the five-day care programs for our pre-K through fifth graders. We also have Welcome Nova in their Future Lab program coming in January for our 6th through 8th graders. This program will support students as they begin to explore their likes, dislikes, skills, areas they would like more experience in to prepare them for high school and beyond. Next slide. Also funded by the OST budget are our OST enrichment clubs, not to be confused with our school-based teacher-led clubs that many of our students participate in. Next slide. OST enrichment clubs were added as another option to extend the student's school day while participating in hands-on activities, which is another one of the goals of our plan. OST clubs are managed by the OST main office, site directors at each school, the OST steering committee, and supported by the SFLC. There are currently over 200 students who have benefited. The clubs are free to students. Offerings are based on interests and need at each school. The offerings are sent out by principals via newsletters and the SPS website. SFLC helps to recruit students, especially for schools that we have noticed show low enrollment in these activities. Starting with this new session that began January 5th, we began using Arbiter for student registration, with the immense support of Tina Liu of SFLC, managing the tech support, and liaisons and site directors helping to register families on the ground. This is the same system as James mentioned we used last summer, and we plan to increase the use of this in other programs such as El Sistema and Soccer Without Border, moving more into a single point of entry. And now I'd like to introduce the Assistant Director of OST and Community Schools Program, Adriana Garecke, to provide an update and highlights of the Community Schools Program.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Adriana Garecke, and I'm the Assistant Director of Out-of-School Time with Community Schools. And if you want to pass the next slide, please. So the city offers a total of 1,542 full-time after-school slots, with community schools having a capacity of 1,043. This in-house program, staffed by trained educators, creates high-quality curriculum and fosters strong connections with our schools. as our longest running program enables us to build meaningful relationships with students and understand them better as learners and individuals. We serve students in pre-K through 6th grade across 8 elementary schools. Site director and assistant site director lead each site. A clinical consultant and a student service coordinator provide additional support. Next slide, please. Registrations open in March. No. Sorry, let me see. Yeah, the registrations opens in March for all grade levels. Multilingual staff and SFLC and site directors support families with registrations and technical needs. Priority placement is given to return students and families experience financial hardship. Seats availability depends on staffing projections. Staffings include, Staffings includes lead teachers, assistant teachers, and intern students. Many working part-time in our schools and education-related roles. Our ratio is pre-K 1 to 10 and school-age students 1 to 13. Next slide, please. This slide compares last year enrollment and waitlist data with projections for the 25-26 school year. APOL is included because it supports community schools, waitlist management for Argenciano and Kennedy, where the waitlist has been significantly reduced and is now minimal. El Sistema is included to demonstrate Somerville Public Schools' total full-time care after-school enrollment. All Somerville Public Schools programs are evaluated using an after-school practice tool, observation, and are supported through community-wide professional development alignment with programs' quality goals. Next slide, please. Over the past 5 years, community schools has experienced steady growth across all areas as shown in these charts. Enrollment has nearly doubled, staffing has increased, and equity and access have expanded, as reflected in financial aid participation. During this time, salaries have risen, while tuition has remained largely stable. Community schools continue to charge lower tuition than other local providers. Community school is $149, YMCA is $210, and Elizabeth Peabody House is $185. And we also remain below the state average. However, rapid post-COVID growth create the need to increase tuition to support rising costs while maintaining program quality. Next slide, please. This is a snapshot of current finances and projecting forward. Historically, the tuition has been low, and there was a need to increase it to be comparable to our community partners and neighboring programs and to keep up with expenses and salary increases. Thank you for your time, and I'm going to pass it to Mr. Brian King from Summer Promise.
Good evening. My name is Brian King. I am the out-of-school time coordinator for the city of Somerville and a member of the OST steering committee. Just to begin, what are the OST steering committee? We can go to the next slide. All right. So we are the OST steering committee. We promote city-school cooperation and engage in collaborative planning to leverage city, school, community partners and resources to strengthen Somerville's out-of-school time system and also strengthen Somerville's opportunities and equity for Somerville's youth and families. Who we are, we're comprised of the out-of-school time director, Rosanna Parabello, the assistant director, Adriana Cuerque. We've got Chris Hosman, who's the director of Summer Promise, Ruth Santos, the director of the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative, and myself, Brian King, the coordinator. Next slide. All right, so what we've been doing. So we've been working hard to understand the community-wide needs and barriers to out-of-school time. Last year, we administered a citywide survey of Somerville families to assess actual demand for out-of-school time seats. The survey surveyed 742 families and representing 1,046 pre-K through 6th grade students. And this is approximately 37% of the school pre-K through 6 population. And through that data, and along with other data that we assessed through community schools registration and waitlist, as well as surveys in the middle school, I can't remember the name of the survey, the risk assessment survey about out-of-school time preferences, we started to come and compile what the demand was, and as a result worked hard this year to increase capacity and pinpoint those needs to specific schools and populations. Additionally, we also do system-wide development. So this year we've been working hard, also this is in line with the Arbiter initiative, to align all health and safety protocols and practices for all out-of-school time programs operating in Somerville Public Schools, which is great. Also, just to mention that also on the Arbiter front, we've been working closely with that initiative, and that also allows us to align and ensure program monitoring of our partner programs, both through attendance and also requirements of staff around first aid training and other qualifications necessary to operate in the school. Other things, in developing shared quality standards, along with that, we've identified the APTO, which is a tool out of the NIOS, the National Institute of Out-of-School Time at Wesley College. We use a tool to provide quality standards, and then also a tool to assess programs. So now we actually have feedback loops of our partner programs as well as our in-school programs, and also that will contribute directly that eventually that every school would be, every program, excuse me, would have a continuous quality improvement program in place as they operate in the schools. Yeah, and lastly, we're also working around the issues of identifying sustainable and diverse financial strategies, and this is just crucial so that we support the entire system to make sure that Somerville families have access to diverse out-of-school time programming, both in school and out of school, community-based. Thank you. With that, I will pass it back to Rosanna for any questions.
Mayor Wilson.
Thanks, Chair. Through you, I can't remember who presented on this. First of all, love the creative approach of going to Arbiter, an app that definitely wasn't necessarily created for this, but it sounds like it's doing a really good job. Question about the summer program. Back in October, former school committee member Dr. Sarah Phillips and I attended a presentation in Boston for Boston After School and Beyond, and one of their big successes was really improving the attendance with their summer programs, especially at the high school age, especially with girls, and girls of color in particular. I'm curious, I see the note about increased attendance across most programs, but also the area of improvement cited increased high school student roles and hours. I'd be curious to see that, not to create a bunch of work for y'all, but if there were a breakdown of what that attendance looks like in the summer programs with crosstabs, age, gender, race and ethnicity, just to see what that looks like in our city.
Yeah, thank you. So I have a breakdown of all of the student attendance for all the programs, and the reason why in the slides it said over most programs for attendance was because about the third week in July is when we saw that dip in attendance, and that was based off of ICE that was in Somerville area, and a lot of messages were sent out through different program directors noticing that those students were dropping off because of that. So that was the main week that dropped off. And in terms of more in depth of what type of students are dropping in that attendance, I could definitely get those numbers for you. And to answer the areas of improvement for high school student roles and hours, we last year and the year prior, my only 2 years that I've been in this role so far, we partnered with the mayor's office to have student employees to work in different areas of summer programming. And we did notice that some students were also working in other programs outside of the mayor's office, had a few more hours. And I know that a lot of the students who were in the mayor's program specifically were looking for more hours. And we also had more program directors that were looking for more students. So we want to try, and we have to have some more meetings this year as we're now getting ready for summer 2026. We want to find more ways to get students involved, to not just necessarily work in, or not even work, but attend programs, but to work in the programs. At least when I was running some of the interviews with those students in the mayor's program last year, so many of these students were really excited to get involved with the community and work with some of the younger students, whether it was mentoring students or even working as like, excuse me, I'm forgetting the word for a second, just helping with language barriers and translating for other students who may not understand what their program director is talking about or their teachers are talking about. So there's definitely room for students to participate more in the working aspect, which I think is a really good opportunity for those kids, like they were speaking on earlier, to transition outside of high school as well. I hope that answers your question.
Member Beaton.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Great work. I just wanted to highlight how incredibly impressive the movement in the waiting lists for community schools has been over this last year. That has been a persistent issue for many years. And now it appears that just a handful of families, and I'm sure it's difficult for those families who are still on the wait list, but wow, marked decrease in the size of the wait list. So kudos and thank you for your work there. I'm wondering, in that list, and in fact, is it possible to pull that slide up? Okay, I've got it up in front of me on my computer. So we have the student enrollment and we have the wait list. And I'm wondering, is there another category? Do we have, are there any families or students who have been priced out? I doubt it, but has there been anyone who has been rejected? I just want to know what universe we're looking at. Is this the entire universe of students either enrolled or waitlisted?
So this is the total. These are pretty updated numbers. It does change daily. And we did lose some students since the beginning of the year. But the wait list contains families that not necessarily are not in programming. So we did dive deeper into who's on the wait list, and the families that we're currently pulling off the wait list are enrolled in other programs in the city. So we are trying to figure out that piece, whether do we call it a wait list or do we call it a preference? Because we also, in this, as we realize, we pulled more students off the wait list this year, we also decreased the enrollment in our partner programs, like the YMCA and the PUDS, which we don't necessarily want to do. As Brian had mentioned, we're implementing the APT-O to sort of equal out quality standards across these programs and meeting with them so that this doesn't happen. Obviously, people are always going to have a preference, but it's really uncomfortable to reduce programming in other programs just based on that. So.
Thank you. Member Eldridge. You had your hand up.
Thank you. Through the chair, a question kind of off of Member Baton's question, but then also another side question here. Are there scholarships, or is there a threshold for financial assistance for families? Are there families that are able to participate in these programs without any type of financial commitment?
I mean, zero, like not paying a fee? Yes, so we have approximately 80 families that don't pay a fee, I believe. and then others pay $5, $2. We have a sliding scale range of what families will pay. But if families didn't enroll in that initial period and apply for financial aid, when we did registration back in March, we did see some families come in September who had registered and maybe not understood they needed to apply for financial aid. So we were doing a lot of work trying to figure out those families, considering we had already given out lots of sliding scale and financial aid. So trying to accommodate these families is something that we're working on right now to ensure that if a family wants to participate, they're able to, whether they need care or they don't need care. We understand that there are needs in the community for families who just need the academic support, need the social enrichment, things like that. And so we don't want any barriers and have to say no. And so that's why the funding piece is coming into play when we're figuring out other ways to support our sliding scale that we use. We did see a decrease in vouchers, a loss of subsidies across Massachusetts. So this has been very difficult. And the restrictions they put on these voucher reassessments is really difficult for a lot of our families to produce these documents. Obviously, if they're asking for financial aid, there's a reason. And, we're jumping through hoops to help these families not lose vouchers. So that piece we're also analyzing and trying to figure out a plan for.
Thank you. Member Lippens?
Thank you, through you. I have a question specifically about summer programming, and you had talked about high school students and their roles. I do have a daughter who's very enthusiastic about doing the mayor's program and volunteering, and as a parent, I'm wondering where there's more information about these programs for parents. I know the sign-up is not until April, is what I'm understood from the information I found. But I think you had mentioned students wanting more hours, and also, so I'm wondering about connecting with our Student Advisory Council, how our students can find out earlier about what's offered, what's available, what this might look like. I hope that question makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Thank you. Now that it's January, we're just going to start the process, Rosanna and I, figuring out how summer's going to look this year and what we want to do differently. So you're definitely right, speaking with the student committee and hearing what they want from us and how we can partner with them better. And then I think having a meeting with the mayor's office to see what the mayor's program for those jobs could look like this year and how it could be different from last year. We'll just be able to answer that and hopefully give more opportunities to those kids. Did that answer your question? Or how to get it out earlier, you said?
Yes, and yes.
So we don't actually run the mayor's program. It's done through the mayor's office. So we partner with them. So we've provided feedback around what we're seeing. And there are certain barriers with the hours. We get feedback from the high school students that 20 hours isn't enough. We've also noticed that we need, within SPS on our end, on the school side, we need to increase, as James said, the roles that high school students are doing so that we can accommodate more high school students into jobs, some jobs outside of the box of what we think should be summer jobs.
I'm going to check that everyone has spoken once before I let colleagues speak again. Okay. Member Eldridge, then Member Bitton.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm really excited to hear about another academic support opportunity over the summer. We heard from two from SFLC, excuse me, and we're also hearing through out of school time, maybe it's Mr. Mandart, about the elementary spell program. I'm wondering if you could shed a little bit more information on, again, how families can participate in that program, how we go about qualifying, and just the staffing. Is it internal, like is there educators here, or are we bringing someone else in?
Yeah, as for the educators for the spell programs, both at the elementary and the middle school, high school level, there are mostly internal hirings for staffing with teachers. There are a couple that are from outside of the district, but it's pretty minimal. And those are referral-based programs. So Alex Hershey, who works at least for the elementary program, I'm not sure who's going to be working for it this summer, but they work with the staff members at each building to see what students might be a good fit for that program. So there's definitely a lot of communication between Summer. He is most likely starting that now. I know he works very early on that program. He adores it. So a lot of communication throughout the different buildings to get those students who need those things. We reach out to them. Yeah.
Thank you. Mayor Wilson? You're right. Thank you. Member Butone, then Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to follow up on Member Eldridge's question about funding, or I guess we heard public comments before this, at the beginning of this meeting, and in an email to the entire school committee earlier today from the East and the PTA Council about families that may be relying on GoFundMe or other, charitable giving to be able to afford out of school time services or community schools. I'm not sure exactly what that is. I need to dig into it a little more, but I'm wondering, I guess to the superintendent, is there a funding need from us to help bridge that gap? Is there, or is it a needs identification piece? I'm wondering what the disconnect there might be.
Through the chair, so as you know, we did encounter a situation with our projections for the structure fee that we have. As you know, Somerville has such a diverse population. Families actually have said to me, hey, I am willing to pay as much as you need to ask me. Can I contribute to? So you have some families actually who have that capacity, and we have families who don't have that ability to do that. So we have looked at the data that we use for reference as to who can pay and who can't, and we try to not use a scalpel to determine how much is the fee. We try to use a sliding scale, and we try to be as generous as possible. And as you mentioned, yeah, there are some group of families that were impacted by that. We also know that any pay structure for families who struggle with finances is a roadblock. Short from saying, yes, we need money, can we actually provide free access to everyone, especially who cannot afford it? I think that that's a question that we need to discuss with the mayor as well as our team to find out what are other ways that we can actually bring all the families that are in a sliding scale. I think is not as simple as, we actually have been discussing how do we do this in a way that doesn't cut anyone. But the reality also is that we have some capacity, some limitations at every building. And so there is a multi-pronged approach in terms of how to extend the out of school time, the community schools slots. As you see, the numbers have increased significantly. And so there's a capacity piece there. But back again to the question, is there a magic number, or is there a number of folks who actually are being cut off because of this? That's a question that we continue to ask. And of course, as you saw my response in the email today, is that was an intended consequence, and we will definitely look into that.
Mayor Wilson.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I appreciate this discussion about the fees. And I'll just name that, it's admirable to want to keep overall fees low. We heard the comments about how, the sort of rack rate compares to other options in the city. I've just found that not every, trying to do that, you end up subsidizing every family. And I just am from experience, not every family needs subsidy. And I've become a big fan of raising, rather than trying to keep all fees low for everyone, having a much more dynamic sliding scale fee. And I've seen that really pay dividends, especially when you're looking to get generous with financial aid and make sure that you can really take care of the families that need it the most. So yeah, here for that discussion. I'm really, back on the data question, I'd be really curious to see what a comparison would look like of the overall student bodies by school compared to the enrollment in community schools in terms of along socioeconomic lines of who's actually enrolling their kids in these programs. Does it look like the school body in general, or are we seeing a separation between the school body and who's doing out-of-school time, community schools in particular? Not asking for that tonight, to be clear, Chair, but I would be curious to see what that comparison looked like.
If I can just, at one of the meetings that we had, I forgot which one it was, that was the same debate we had, and the question that came out from the members was, who are we serving as a community for our community schools? So that's a question that has been raised. It is a question that requires us to go over the data, but I think we have some numbers already, and that's obviously there is a, when our system is based on access to information and see who signs up first and all that, there is always a preference in terms of those who actually have access to information. So the system has been like that for many years before, and so we kept the structure that kind of has tried to be more equitable, but the basis of the membership has been based on that structure. So I think that I can hypothesize that the audience of the program by default favors families that have had more access to information. But I know that anytime that there is a question from our parent liaisons about trying to have students to be there because they need to be there, there is a dynamic that actually is very fluid. So we also have introduced some ways in which we actually built in some direct feedback from the day operation to have kids to make sure that they get preference in those cases.
And if I may, we also implemented the lottery system last year for registration that we saw a lot of change in the enrollment. But with that, it was challenging with families who need the care, two-parent working or one parent working. So our goal was to try to admit everyone who needed the access, the care.
Thank you. President Davis.
Thank you, Chair Ackman. So first, I just want to kind of say again, to echo what I said when we had a conversation, similar conversation a month or so ago, that I would be fully in support of a more dynamic, to use the mayor's phrasing, pricing structure. I agree that, and just sort of my experience as a parent and my sense is that there's probably room to have a number of folks help out more, and that there'd be a lot of willingness to do so. Certainly agree that GoFundMe is no way to be funding members of our community to participate in a program like this that that we are running, and so full stop there on that point. On board with it. The other thing I want to flag, and I can't remember if it was Dr. Stillman that said this, that was pointed this out to me. It was someone whom I respect tremendously, so very well might have been. I want to make sure that I give the good member from Ward 6 credit if it was our conversation. But in terms of the type of data that the mayor was referencing, and when we look at those data, as far as like which school, the participants at schools, how do those relate to the school populations? That is informative, but there also are other factors, like are there other alternatives that particularly serve communities that might sort of skew those data in a way that wouldn't be obvious as we're looking at it. So just there's a lot more of a sort of a dynamic aspect to that as well, and I know you all will think about that, but somebody pointed out to me, and I thought it was worth repeating, because I hadn't thought of it when we were thinking about that before, so thank you.
Member Green.
I'll go ahead and fill in some details to that question, actually. We know that, like, for example, our Brazilian community has a fairly tight-knit child care network. that runs, I'd say, in parallel to ours. And I think those kinds of, so I think those are the right questions. I think we have seen that a number of our, say, different communities in our city would rather do their own thing. And I would ask, and I know this happened in the past, that groups like SSFC, our STEM program, work with these networks. And I really appreciate the comment that, like, we don't want to put these other alternatives out of business. We want people to have options that work for them culturally, ideologically, whatever it may be. So I really appreciate, and I think it's worth us thinking to be about how we support out-of-school time, SFLC, and other agencies in supporting alternatives. We don't have to, not only do we not have to do it all ourselves, we probably shouldn't.
Thank you. All right. Deep appreciation, Director Parabello. Deep appreciation to your team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have more to report?
No, that's the end of the report.
Beautiful. Thank you, Superintendent.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to item 6, report of subcommittees. Do I have a motion?
I move to accept the report of the Rules Management Subcommittee meeting for December 15th, 2025.
Any others? If you're not.
And I'll move to accept the report of the School Committee and Student Advisory meeting for January 7th, 2026.
Okay, great.
Yep, that's going to keep it there.
Second.
Is there, sorry, there's a motion by Member Bitton, seconded by Member Green. Ms. Bitton?
Yeah, through the chair. The finance report will be in the next packet. It's done, but it just got in too late for people to actually look at it, so.
Great. So with that, we have a motion by Member Bitton, seconded by Member Green, for the report of school committee, the Rules Subcommittee and the Student Advisory Subcommittee. Is there any discussion, or Member Bitton mentioned? All right, all those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, passes. Thank you very much. All right, so Ms. Bitton will be in our next packet. Great, thank you. We're moving on to unfinished business. The calendar, I assume Dr. Boston Davis? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good evening again, everyone. In your package, you'll find the draft of the 2026-2027 school year calendar, along with a memo that I drafted that also just has the requirements with the law written for the school committee, and it is around approving a school year schedule and talks through what that means. So I don't have much new to add, but I did want to bring the calendar, the drafted calendar, back to this committee, given that we do have new members and we're welcoming new members. So I wanted to just talk through at a high level the calendar and offer any questions and progress that we're making based on some questions that came from the committee in December. So you'll see our drafted 26-27 school calendar here. As named in the memo, you are, as a committee, required to schedule a school year that lasts, or schedule the school year for 185 days and operate the schools for 180. I just named that because there's often a question of why do we have a 185th day on the calendar, and it's part of the regulation, and it also obviously kind of works with us in terms of snow days, potential snow days. From there, also you'll notice we've tentatively marked the committee meetings, the full meetings, for the 1st and 3rd, where that works Mondays in the year. That's a new addition, so that's not something that you'll necessarily approve within the schedule, but we included it in the calendar, and all the breaks and early release Wednesdays are indicated. The other thing that I'll add, and then happy to answer any questions, is that when we brought the drafted calendar forward in December, there were questions from the committee around the tentative last day of school falling on a Monday. And is there any way that we can be creative with our thinking? I think this came from our chair. Can we be creative in thinking about shifting dates, either coming in on a day that was typically off, or thinking other creative ways with our calendar. So I just want to name that we are having conversations with SEU leadership right now. I named the SEU as that's our largest union, but obviously we want to engage with all of our staff members. But we're having our initial conversations with our SEU leadership, and thinking creatively through what some options could be. I don't have anything formal to report back at this time, but I do want to say that we're engaged in that conversation. The SEU has been a great partner in just kind of thinking creatively about what we could do to have our tentative last day of school fall on June 17th. So we're having that conversation right now.
Thank you. All right, Member Green.
I want to thank the administration and the SEU for being creative on this point, because it's not just last day of school being on a Monday, it's last day of school being a Monday after a 3-day weekend. I think it's fair to say that attendance would not be the highest on that day. And so if we can be, so I really appreciate everyone being creative and flexible about thinking about ways to have this school year make logical sense for families and staff, both.
All right, so, Member Viton?
This is about other issues related to the calendar. Okay. Thank you, Chair. Through you, I just wanted to flag the January 4th potential school committee meeting date. I think in years past, we haven't reconvened after the winter break quite that early. So just a request to maybe look at the 11th as a potential date for our first school committee meeting after winter break. And then for February break, I found it a little confusing where it says from the 15th to the 19th February vacation, office is open, and then the line immediately after says President's Day, office is closed. For the 15th, if there's a way to make that more clear. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Patone? And then Member Green? Okay, good.
In response to my Chair Batone's point, I think this is actually a question about the new charter, because normally that first Monday would be our organizational meeting and the State of the City address. And I don't know if that's changed in the new charter or not. So I think that would be the question is that when the organizational meeting / State of the City address will be, or is, because the Vice Chair is right that we wouldn't normally have a normal meeting that day, but it may be.
Thank you. Member, you were, okay, thank you. All right, well, thank you for providing us with what you have and for mentioning the ongoing conversations. As I have said many times, my hat is off to you, Dr. Boston Davis. This is succinct and quite impressive how much information you convey on one page. All right. With that, we are going to move on to the MSBA update.
Through the chair, so as you recall, in late December, the Construction Advisory Group, what is also known as the CAG, delivered its recommendation to Mayor Valentine regarding the city's plans for a new school building for the Winter Hill community. This recommendation comes after a more than a 30-month process in which the CAG's members review data from the city and district alongside community input from survey responses and focus groups. All members of the CAG recommended that the new school be built at 115 Sycamore Street. That was obviously the former Winter Hill location. And a majority of members also recommended building the school to the maximum size that is permitted by MSBA. So regarding the future of the Brown School, the majority of the CAG recommended that this decision ultimately be decided by this body, the school committee, and the full recommendation is also publicly in our website as well as the city's website. Since the recommendation from the CAG, my team and I have met with Mayor Wilson, who is eager to move this project forward and ensure that the Winter Hill has a new building as soon as possible. The mayor plans to join district leadership in meetings with both the Winter Hill and Brown School communities to discuss next steps in the MSBA process and what the CAG recommendations mean for each of the communities. He also plans to join the Educational Leadership Visioning session that is scheduled for January 20th, and it will be an opportunity for the project design team to hear from educators and SPS families on what their hopes and dreams are for the educational design elements in the building project. Please note that additional community engagement opportunities or project design on the project design are anticipated in the coming months. We don't have those yet, but be on the lookout for more details that are coming soon. Finally, as I mentioned in previous meetings, the ELT, the Educational Leadership Team, was convened by the city to support the design of the new building. This team includes school leaders who are working together to identify programmatic needs across general education, special education, specialists, out-of-school time programming, and much more. The team has already met multiple times, and school tours are scheduled this week. In fact, I think there is one tomorrow, to visit other recently designed schools across the Commonwealth. As you can see, a lot is happening and fast, and so I just want to make sure that both the community is aware of the visioning sessions as well as the process that is happening through the ELT in terms of visioning what is coming next for the project. So with that, that's the end of my MSBA report.
Any questions? Member Patton?
Through the chair, thanks for the update. I was just looking at the website and the page, the new Winter Happenings page, and getting the detail about the visioning forum, the building visioning forum, and I apologize if you've already talked to this. It's obviously, it's like a 8:30 to 2:15 session, so it's like a long period of time, and I'm not critiquing that. But I would imagine that would limit the type of people that could choose to participate in this. I don't know if visioning forums are ever staggered over time so that we would have it for 2 or 3 two-hour sessions. I'm not saying this is how we should do it, but I looked at it because I was thinking, oh, I might just observe. For me as a school committee member, curiosity killed the cat, but I often like to hear what the conversation is. But that made me stop for a moment because often that really favors are more for people who have more access, which is not necessarily the only voices that we want to hear, although I know all the members of this committee are going to try to represent as best they can. So I'm just flagging that and putting the question out there in terms of if obviously if the schools in the city feel like this is the best way to do that, I understand it, but I just wanted to flag my question about accessibility for a session like that.
No, thank you for flagging that, and I know that we work with SFLC to find a time that makes sense. And we also recognize that more time is needed to do that, and we will have some visioning sessions. We don't have them yet, but that was a recommendation that we had for the design group. You know, sometimes often the way these things are designed are by folks who don't often work with families that have some limitations, but I know that there are some constraints around that. But but we will be having more sessions, and so I don't have the days with me right now, but that is coming.
All right. Thank you very much. Oh, my bad. Member Lippens?
Thank you, through you. I also am wondering, as part of the building visioning forum, how are students' voices part of this discussion? And forgive I just don't know enough, so asking it.
Good question, and I need to, just a quick question, Ruth, do you know if there's a group, the student, within that session time for students? I know we have different stakeholder groups that are coming.
Yeah, so I think this initial session is designed for SPS staff and parents, and the goal is to have many different sessions moving forward in partnership with the city. I think there's a couple of evening sessions that will be scheduled as well at individual schools, as well as some larger sessions that I believe student voice will be incorporated into. I haven't got the details, as you say, but I think that that's something that everybody's working on, is a calendar of different places and ways that people can engage, maybe targeted populations, maybe targeted topics.
So we will make sure that the student voices are part of that process as well.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Member Piton?
Thank you, through the chair, to the superintendent. So I know in the past when the CAG was put together and the MSBA process, we have different websites that already exist. And I know you're going to laugh, but the idea of sort of what the vision of the visioning is, but something that sort of frames out like what we're trying to accomplish, all the voices we want to put in the process. These websites might be the right places to put them, I have no idea. But something where people can understand how this is going to happen. Even if we don't have every single date, I think it would be really valuable to be able to point people to something that says this is the big picture of how we're doing this part of the work. Because this is the community involvement part, and this is the thing that people really need to know about. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we're going to move on from the MSBA update. We're going to table the December bill roll because that was not in our packet, so we will vote on that next meeting. And now we get to start our first reading of the Public Schools Policy Manual, reviewing sections A, B, and C. I want to note for our new members or for anyone tuning in for the first time, we're calling this a first reading. A reading of a policy often happens out loud. We're not going to read all of this out loud because it's a lot. But a first reading is a chance for members to sort of give their first impressions, and then they go back to their constituencies, make sure, also gut check what they've read, and then at a second reading, at a minimum, which would be our next meeting, we vote. So it's just a stage setting. I feel like, Member Bitone, I should kick this to you, right?
I'll take it. Thank you, Chair. Through you. I guess I should start by highlighting the excellent work that my predecessor, Member Barish, predecessor as Chair of Rules, did. And if you look back in the packets from the December 15th meeting, not to do right now, but I just want to highlight that there is a summary of the policy manual review for sections A through C. This is a process that we as a body have taken on. We're reviewing all of our policies from A through K, L. I forget how many letters there are, but there's a substantial body of policies that we are responsible for. And we are taking a systematic review. This is a process that has taken quite a while to get to where we are. And the policies that have brought us here, that we have in front of us, A through C, is quite a chunk. It reflects, I want to say, at least a year and a half of work of the Rules Subcommittee. I took a careful look at it over the weekend and found a few things that even in the time that I had spent in subcommittee, I did not catch at that time. And I'll be suggesting a few small changes as well. Plus, we updated our charter in the time since we undertook this task, and there are several policies that we will need, even in this batch that's in front of us, to revisit. So I'm going to suggest pulling a couple of those back as well. And I will itemize those in a moment, but that's just a large framing for those observing and for the new members.
Wonderful, thank you. So that's what we will consider our first reading. At any point, if someone wants them all read out loud, they can be. I feel like that's not the best use of our time, but I do not want to deny anyone. Member Vitone? I was going to wrap up, so if we're not ready to wrap up.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, so I want to just highlight that policies AD, BB, BBBE, BDA, BDEA, and BGC should be withdrawn for reconsideration because some element of them does not match with either the current practice of the body or with the new charter.
So my request would be that you send a written version of that request.
I will absolutely do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That was, sorry, Member Patone.
Thank you, through you. Just to clarify, so the version that we're going to get for next meeting will not include those
That is my understanding.
policies that you just listed.
Yes, I will make that change, or I will is that how that works? Sorry.
So they were voted out of subcommittee. We can choose to vote through whatever we want, I guess, unless there's opposition. I tend to defer to the subcommittee chair about taking them back. So as long as it is very clear, well before our next packet, what we will be voting on, I think that's my interpretation of the request, is that it be made very clear to the body which we are. We'll just use the active sense, what we will be voting on, at least in the next, or what we will be asked to review and vote on by the next session.
Thank you. Through you, I will work with Erica Ms. Garcia, to make sure that it reflects what we should move forward with.
And just to be highly specific, if Ms. Garcia can send us all an email very shortly saying, don't look at these, because obviously it's going to be a lot of time to review them, and I don't want particularly the new members to spend time looking at things that we're not going to need. I don't want it to just come out that Thursday when the packet, as you said, Dr. Ackman.
Makes perfect sense. I agree. All right, so we'll move on that as quickly as possible. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to item B, acceptance of FY26 grant funds. Is there a motion?
I move to accept all grant funds for FY26 for the state grants, Mass Cultural Youth Reach, to the El Sistema Department, valued at $26,550, and from Computer Science Engage Part 2, district-wide grant, valued at $33,627.
Second.
Motion by Member Bitone, seconded by Member Lippens. Are there questions? Member Green?
Actually, no, sorry, not for the specific gift, sorry. Question withdrawn.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. There's a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All abstentions? All right, the motion passes. We're moving on to donations. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve with gratitude a donation of computer keyboards from Ashish Kul from Cambridge, Mass. With a value of $390 to support the district-wide programming.
Motion by Member Pitone, seconded by Member Bitone. There we go.
Now I have a question.
Green?
Is there a story here? This is a fairly unique and specialized donation. I'm curious.
What I'm hearing from Ms. Garcia is that the donor offered to donate them, and we, once the body approves, gratefully accepted.
Works for me, thank you.
All right, I have a motion by Member Pitone, seconded by Member Bitone. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. We move on to community or calendar items from committee members. Okay. All right. Vice Chair, are there any condolences? For our new members, we stand for our condolences.
Hang on while I pull it up. I apologize. Okay. Tonight we remember Daniel Riley Moynihan, brother of Julie Hughes, ESL specialist at the East Somerville Community School. Russell Arredondo Jr., husband of Leah Arredondo, principal, accountant, clerk, payroll in the finance department. Mary Houghton, sister of the late Rita Houghton, retired teacher. Maureen Foster, former pre-K paraprofessional, and Kathleen Houghton, retired special ed teacher. Mary is also the aunt of Diana Young, Argentiano teacher, and Matt Young, East Somerville Community School teacher. And Miguel Contreras Camacho, father of Catherine Contreras, Gannon Community Schools, out of school time principal, clerk 2.
Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.